It's a new series where Obelix is helping me set up some slightly more comprehensive tests than what I've done in the past. I've done some tests like this, but most of my tests are a bit simpler, because the more variables you put into the mix, the more complex things become and the more unpredictable things become. So these are the rules of engagement. And here we're going to be looking at a very common scenario in Total War Attila. We're both going to be looking at cavalry engagements with infantry support, cavalry engagements with infantry and skirmish support. So it covers the most important aspects of playing Total War Attila in multiplayer engagements. In single player, everything goes out the window because the AI can't play for shit. So here we have a combination that used to be very common: noble Germanic horsemen, and here we have some elite Agathosai warriors. Melee cavalry ruled the battlefields of Rome too, but that has shifted. They ruled the battlefields of Rome too, but they also ruled the battlefields of Attila. But with patch 1.3, when shock cavalry started getting more bonuses to their weapon damage and their melee attack against these melee cavalry units, things start to change a bit. And one of the things that dampens the charge of the shock cavalry will be the diamond formation. So in one-on-one engagements, diamond formation is great. But as I've said many times before, on the battlefield, things start to change, because these units are going to be slower, the noble Germanic horsemen in diamond. They're going to take more damage from missiles, and it allows this unit of elite Sarmatian cataphracts, although it's a good thing in the short term that the elite Sarmatian cataphracts carry on through the unit, now there's also a significant portion of this unit able to continue through to the infantry behind. So what we're looking at here is two different things: the ability to break through, and this was very important to me to find out, because units in Attila will focus on the center of the unit when firing projectiles. So these precursors, if this was the center of the unit, you can see the Sarmatian cataphracts are here, and still in a running animation because they've gotten the order to run through here. Now, since they tend to aim for the center of the unit, that could potentially mean that these elite Agathosai wouldn't be able to fire at all, while these guys would be able to fire at the noble Germanic. So let's just see what happens here. The elite Agathosai have attack orders on the elite Sarmatian cataphracts, and they do manage to put out a hefty volley of javelins. However, the elite Sarmatian cataphracts make it into the elite Agathosai, and the elite Agathosai drop very quickly, but so do the elite Sarmatians. And now I'm going to try to do the same thing here against these elite Agathosai. And what you'll notice is that the line of sight of these elite Agathosai warriors was blocked by the Sarmatians that remained here in the formation. So that means that the noble Germanic horsemen, they were able to safely get into the elite Agathosai warriors, but they are very bunched up, and it will be very easy now for the elite Agathosai warriors to get a good charge on the noble Germanics. So activating Headhunt here, these elite Agathosai will be able to defeat the elite Sarmatian cataphracts, but it's going to be difficult for me to pull out the noble Germanics. I don't have them in diamond formation anymore. I did pull them out, so I have a few, half the unit is remaining, but these elite Agathosai have precursors. They are now throwing their precursors, causing 7 casualties, and the noble Germanic horsemen get a charge on these elite Agathosai. Now, this might be problematic for a unit other than elite Agathosai, but what happens here is that Headhunt means that these elite Agathosai won't break, and it means that they will be able to defeat these noble Germanic horsemen. Now, the elite Agathosai warriors are going to charge in here, and both of the cavalry units are off the field. And judging by the number of men left in these units, the elite Agathosai Sarmatian cataphract combination should win here against the noble Germanic elite Agathosai combination, even though diamond formation was being used on the noble Germanics. So the rules change. The rules of engagement change when you have several units on the battlefield in the formation. So what I'm going to try here is to use a very deep unit of noble Germanic horsemen, and we're going to do exactly the same thing: charge in, pull through. Let's see here. Now, still, the Elite Gothrasai weren't able to use their precursors effectively here against the Noble Germanic Horse. The Noble Germanic Horse has 33 kills, and the Elite Sarmatian Cataphracts that ran through and got into the Elite Sarmatians, they basically that got into the Elite Gothrasai. They basically destroy the Elite Gothrasai on that single charge, although it's not the entire unit that's able to charge. And so now my Noble Germanic Horsemen stay in the fight. I should probably have pulled out this Noble Germanic and then charged in again, but let's just pretend this was a miss micro on my part. So the Elite Gothrasai headhunt keeps them in the fight for now. The Elite Gothrasai here, they're doing a number on my Noble Germanic Horse. But one thing to consider here about using the strategy of continuing through to the infantry unit behind there is that it's still possible. Now, I pulled out way too late here, but it's still possible for the Noble Germanics to follow these Elite Sarmatians. And what happens then is that, yes, the Elite Sarmatians are going to be able to get the charge on the infantry here, but these Germanics, Noble Germanics, are also going to be able to rear charge the Elite Sarmatian Cataphracts. So the scenario becomes very complex when you throw in different variables. It's there are quite a few options available, and of course skirmishers would change this as well. So the Elite Gothrasai lose now, and what you'll see on the battlefields of Attila is the focus has shifted towards almost pure melee cavalry, to shock cavalry being dominant with a few melee cavalry units in support. And this is one of the reasons why the shock cavalry is able to inflict casualties faster. And if the Noble Germanics engage the shock cavalry head on, the Noble Germanics die very fast. If they engage them in their diamond formation, then the elite Sarmatians can be able to move around and get at anything that's behind. Now, there are, of course, ways to combat this. One way would be to keep pikes here instead. So let's say I have a cheap unit of pikes, I have a supporting infantry unit. Now I would be able to block the Sarmatians, and I would be able to push in the pikes, and potentially, if I'm MLG enough, I'm going to have to test this as well, but potentially I could then put the pikes directly into the engagement itself, so that the pikes would block the shock infantry here. Now we're talking about very, very micro-intensive stuff that's hard to do down the line, but you could make it happen in single engagement. So there you have it. Slightly more relevant test than just unit against unit. And we're going to do many more of these tests, and they are very interesting. And one of the reasons why I've been focused on the unit tests is because they are much quicker to do, and they require much less explanation and far fewer repeat tests. But I do agree, like some of you have commented, I do agree that tests like these are in fact more interesting than unit versus unit. I think BX Barracus commented on it, and there have been some comments in the past as well. Because the more units you throw into the mix, the more complex things become, because then there are a very high number of possible things you can do, rather than just giving attack orders. So, and that's the appeal of the game, in essence, for me, to find different things to use in different scenarios and try them out in live situations. And that is also why I like multiplayer much better than single player, because, like I always say, everything works against the AI. Strength and honor.